Hello, and welcome to Senior Care's Living Wisely, Aging Well. We discuss issues that are of interest to people ages 60 and over, and also to adults living with disabilities. My name's Tracy Arabian, and today my guest is Carrie Johnson. Carrie is the coordinator of the Age and Dementia Friendly Cape Ann Initiative. Welcome, Carrie. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks.
Tell me, what is age friendly?
So the Age Friendly Initiative is an initiative that started with the World Health Organization. And what they identified was that our population as a whole is aging. And so cities and communities needed to really begin to address the changing needs of the changing demographics of their population. And what the World Health Organization hoped to do was lay out a framework by which communities could make sure that all aspects of a community was age-friendly. And the way they did that was they developed 8 domains, and those are kind of sectors of a community, so things like transportation, civic participation and employment, social participation, housing. And they really wanted to use that framework as a way for communities to begin to organize their work around making sure that they were meeting the needs of the older adults living in their cities and towns. And so that started kind of at a global level, and the United States jumped on through AARP's work with the Age Friendly Initiative. And what AARP does is really facilitate communities becoming more age friendly, and they provide us with toolkits to do so. I think it's a movement that's really gotten a lot of momentum lately, particularly in the United States. It's pretty well established in Europe and in Canada, Australia, but in the United States we've kind of recently moved forward with the initiative, and that's been primarily through AARP's work. Massachusetts, I think, is a leader in the age-friendly world. AARP recently developed an age-friendly state designation, and that means that a state is signing on to make a concerted effort to have all of its communities become more age-friendly. Massachusetts recently signed on. We're the second age-friendly state, and I think that really signifies that Governor Baker and our leadership as a whole are interested in making sure that the needs of all of the state of Massachusetts are met, but particularly older adults.
Great. And on the other hand, what does dementia-friendly mean?
Sure. Dementia-friendly is very similar to the Age-Friendly Initiative in many ways. Dementia-friendly started here in the U.S. It started in Minnesota, and it's spread nationally and now globally even. And Dementia-Friendly does many of the same things that the Age-Friendly Initiative does, but with a focus on those living with dementia and their care partners. And so, as I had mentioned, the Age-Friendly Initiative lays out domains by which we make sure that all aspects of a community meet an older adult's needs. Dementia Friendly Network lays out what they call sectors, very similar to the domains of the age-friendly work. But those sectors are meant to make sure that we as a community are assuring that those living with dementia and their care partners have access to all the same things that the rest of us do. And so that's a big piece of the work that the Dementia Friendly Initiative does. There's also kind of a secondary role in terms of education, and they're looking to educate the community as a whole about dementia and what it means for those living with dementia and for their care partners. Some of the important work that they're doing is really reframing dementia. So I think we've really thought about dementia kind of as a society in a very negative fashion in terms of kind of a life-ending condition, life as you know it. The Dementia Friendly Initiative really is working to make sure that people understand that living with dementia is like living with any other disability. And so a diagnosis of dementia doesn't mean an end. It means that, a rich life continues on with this disability. And so the Dementia Friendly Network really is assuring kind of that a community understands dementia and its impact.
Awesome. So how do you expect both age-friendly and dementia-friendly initiatives to work together?
This is kind of a new aspect to these initiatives. Age-friendly initiatives have been around for quite a while now. Dementia-friendly initiatives are newer. Typically, communities choose to take on one or the other. So they either become an age-friendly community or they become a dementia-friendly community. There's been a recent movement to link the two together, and I think it just makes a lot of sense in terms of leveraging resources, the messaging around the initiatives. AARP, who again does the age-friendly initiative here in the United States, recently did an assessment of the two programs, and they found that they align really well. Those dementia-friendly sectors that I talked about and the age-friendly domains, they work really well together, and so an initiative can move forward in both at the same time. They also, I think, the two initiatives really complement each other and they fill in some gaps for each other. So when the age-friendly initiative was developed, they very specifically, the World Health Organization very specifically did not focus on any disabilities, any diseases or conditions. They kept it very generic. When a dementia-friendly initiative is wrapped into an age-friendly initiative, I think it really serves to fill in some of those gaps that are missing for folks who are living with dementia. I think an age-friendly initiative helps to make the dementia-friendly initiative more sustainable and more community-wide. So I see them partnering up really well. They both have the same, kind of outlook. So they really need to be a grassroots initiative that's working collaboratively with communities, and that's bringing in folks from all those sectors and domains that I mentioned, so transportation, housing, municipal government, chambers of commerce, the list goes on. And so they both have that same grassroots focus and collaborative focus to their work, and I think that's a really important way that they work together. And then moving forward, I think it just to do both together helps kind of eliminate the redundancy. What more often we're seeing now is that, as I said, a community starts with an age-friendly initiative, for example, and then 2 or 3 years later tries to wrap the dementia-friendly initiative into it. And so you've got this kind of repeat of the work that's happened. Doing them both at the outset allows us to eliminate that.
Cool. Why is now the right time to do this? Why this point in time?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that we are really beginning to understand is that we're an aging population, and that means that we're living longer as a whole. And so our older adult population, as a result, is growing, those 60 and older. When we talk about an aging population, people immediately jump to baby boomers. That's obviously a big group of folks that are currently moving into older adulthood. And that's an important aspect of, I think, what helped move this initiative forward. But I think it's really important to know that this is an ongoing and permanent change. So the baby boomers are coming forward. That's a big group of older adults. But this is something that we're going to see repeated again and again with each subsequent generation. Lifespan is going to increase, and so we're going to just continually have more older adults in our communities. And so that's something that's happening on Cape Ann, but it's happening across the state, the country, and globally.
Will this focus specifically on older folks, people who are retired?
So it will focus on older adults, and it's certainly the goal is to make our communities better for older adults who are living in our communities and for those with dementia and for their care partners. It is not specifically focused on older adults who are retired, though. I think often when we think of this work, we forget that there's a large population of older adults who remain in the workforce, who have chosen to extend their career beyond the typical retirement timeline. And so a lot of the work that happens with the age-friendly initiative specifically is to address the needs of that changing workforce and to help employers understand the changing needs of the older adults who will remain in the workforce moving forward and really tap into that knowledge base that's there and the experience level that people have. So that's a big piece of it, the engagement piece, the employment, civic participation, and then also harnessing those who maybe do choose to retire but want to and now have the time to volunteer. And so again, how do we tap into that knowledge base that exists with this group of folks who are looking for an active, engaged retirement?
Can you tell me a little bit more specifically about the Age and Dementia Cape Ann program? What makes it unique?
I think we're unique in many ways. As I mentioned, Age and Dementia Friendly Cape Ann is among the first in the state that's linking dementia friendly and age friendly together at the outset. And so we'll serve, I think, as a model for other organizations that choose to approach age friendly and dementia friendly in this way. We're also unique in that we're taking a regional approach, so we're serving the 4 Cape Ann communities: Essex, Manchester by the Sea, Rockport, and Gloucester. More typically, you see single communities take on age-friendly or dementia-friendly initiatives. So you'd see an age-friendly Boston or dementia-friendly Leominster. So we're a little bit different in that we're going to be encompassing 4 communities and dealing with 4 different needs. We're also unique in that we are housed within senior care, which is an area agency on aging. More typically, you see age-friendly initiatives and dementia-friendly initiatives housed within a municipal government or a planning board, and so that's different as well. I think there will be strengths and challenges with all of these aspects, and it'll be a learning process as we move forward.
Who do you see this initiative impacting the most?
Well, obviously, I guess the first groups that jump to mind are older adults and those in our community who are living with dementia and their care partners. And those are the primary focus. That's the lens that we use as we move forward with our work with this initiative. But the work that happens in age-friendly initiatives and dementia-friendly initiatives also benefits the community as a whole. There's a saying among community planners that is essentially if a community works for older adults and for children, then it works for everyone. And I think we kind of use that as a framework as we think about the work that we're doing. So if you look at something like sidewalks, an age-friendly initiative may look toward improving communities for their pedestrians. So sidewalks that are clear, that are wide, smooth, without impediments, clearly marked signage and crosswalks. Clearly, that's going to benefit older adults, but it's going to benefit everyone as a whole. It's going to benefit parents pushing strollers. It's going to benefit folks delivering packages. It's going to benefit people with disabilities. So while our focus is older adults, those living with dementia and their care partners, I think we're going to hopefully have an impact and better the community as a whole. I also, as I mentioned, we have the 4 communities that we're focused on, so the 4 communities of Cape Ann. But Age and Dementia Friendly Cape Ann is housed within senior care. Senior care, as an area agency on aging, has a wider catchment area, so they serve folks to Beverly and Topsfield. And so lessons learned from the work that we do within the 4 communities of Cape Ann hopefully will be exported out to other communities as well.
Awesome. You've mentioned that you're working collaboratively with the community. What have you done so far in this aspect?
Working collaboratively is a huge piece of the work for age-friendly and dementia-friendly initiatives. They really do need to be grassroots, as I mentioned, and so a lot of the work that happened initially with Age and Dementia-Friendly Cape Ann was working with the 4 communities, with the mayor, with the town administrators, selectmen, to really begin to make sure that we were all on board with taking on these initiatives, that everyone agreed that this was work that needed to be done and that they were committed to doing so. Working with state legislators. So a lot of that work was done initially for Age and Dementia Friendly Cape Ann before we even stepped forward and became this initiative. And then moving forward, we have to continue that community collaboration. It's the only way these initiatives work. So what we've been doing is working to draw folks from all of those domains and sectors that I mentioned that the World Health Organization and Dementia Friendly America have laid out. So that includes working with people from transportation, working with health providers, with financial institutions, some of the folks that we don't typically think about, working with business owners, chambers of commerce, the Y, to begin to bring all of those voices to the table and make sure that we have a full picture of the community and are able to move it forward in a way that makes sense. Another really important piece for us is making sure that we're constantly having the voice of older adult residents at the table, as well as people who are living with dementia and their care partners. And so what we look to do is involve these folks in all aspects of our movement. And so that includes developing a steering committee that includes older adults, people with dementia and their care partners, making sure that we're tapping into their knowledge base about what's needed and what works for them.
What does this kind of initiative mean for a community? What impact do you anticipate?
That's challenging. We are in the process of conducting a community assessment. Every age and dementia-friendly initiative really needs to start with a community needs assessment to see what already exists in a community, what are our community strengths, and what are our areas for improvement. And so because we're in that process, it's hard to say specifically what will be happening moving forward for specific initiatives. I think there are two kind of main guiding principles for us, which is to make sure that we are helping people look at changes through an aging lens. So if you look at something like parks, for instance, if a park is being redone or a new park is being developed, what we want planners to do is also think about it from an aging lens. So are there clear pathways? Are there benches available? Do we have clear markings for paths? And so that is one of our goals, is to really begin to work with communities to make it a natural course of their planning, that they think about how it will impact those older adults and those people living with dementia in their communities. There's also the natural piece of the Dementia Friendly Initiative, which is the education piece. And so we'll continue on with that. And we've already started providing some informational sessions, some trainings to folks on dementia specifically. We just held one for emergency responders so that they're more thoroughly trained on how to work with folks who have dementia. And that's a piece that will continue forward for us as well.
What is the process for age and dementia-friendly communities?
It's a very deliberate process, and it's purposefully a slow process. So as I mentioned, first you really need to convene the stakeholders and make sure that the community leadership is ready to embrace an age-friendly and dementia-friendly initiative. And as I mentioned, it's kind of a community as a whole. So it's municipal leaders, it's chambers of commerce, it's faith communities, making sure that everyone is on board and ready to move forward with these initiatives. After that's established, what needs to happen is a community needs assessment. So a thorough assessment of the community, so we can again look at strengths and what we can leverage within the community, and we can look at areas of improvement. And that is really a thoughtful and careful process. We want to be really thorough and make sure that we are thoroughly assessing the community. As that assessment is taking place, it's important to convene those stakeholders that I mentioned, so create a steering committee to guide the work moving forward. That steering committee takes a look at the community assessment, gets a full picture of the community, and develops a plan. The plans vary by community, so some age-friendly initiatives have narrow plans focused on shorter time periods. Other ones have very broad plans focused over the course of 5 years. And then action teams come together, so groups of individuals who will begin to move our goals forward. And so if it's, say, transportation related, then it would be a group of people who have some knowledge of the transportation systems and what that means. And then there's a constant reassessment process. So are we meeting our goals? Do the goals still make sense as communities move forward and change in 3 and 5 and 10 years? And I think it's important to note that an age-friendly initiative and a dementia-friendly initiative doesn't have a hard end date. It should be an ongoing process that moves forward throughout time. Communities are dynamic and they change, and so we want to make sure we're able to change and adapt with them.
What's been done so far for the Age and Dementia Cape Ann movement?
So we are in the midst of the community assessment process. We've been working with UMass Gerontology Institute to conduct a community assessment of the 4 Cape Ann communities. And they started with listening sessions in each of the 4 communities where the public was invited to come and share their experiences and their thoughts on what is needed to make Cape Ann more age and dementia friendly. After that, there were focus groups conducted in which specific people from the community were brought in, again representing all those domains and sectors, as well as older adults and folks who are care partners of those living with dementia. And so they were part of a more structured conversation that really drilled down. There was also key informant interviews conducted by UMass, and so that was specific interviews with leaders in the 4 communities to get a sense of what's happening in each of those 4 communities. So we're in that process. They finished their data collection at UMass. They're writing up a report for us, which will be made public on our website as soon as we're able to do so. And then we're going to conduct our own community needs survey through Age and Dementia Friendly Cape Ann, and we'll bring both of those pieces together over the fall, throughout the fall, and begin to develop our action plan.
Is there something that today's viewer can do to let you know what they think needs to be done on Cape Ann for a more age and dementia friendly community?
Absolutely. So the survey is a big piece of what we're doing right now in terms of gathering feedback from folks, although we're going to be looking kind of continually for feedback on what could be done to make Cape Ann more age and dementia friendly. But this survey is going to be going out. We'll be working with our community partners to distribute a hard copy paper format to residents. We're also going to have it up on our website, which is www.adfca.org. And people can fill it out online, or people can certainly call Senior Care at 978-281-1750 to request a paper copy of the survey. And so we'll look for that as kind of an initial way to begin to collect information from the community. And we're also going to be out and about. Hopefully folks will see us at the community events, and we're always happy to talk to people. We'll have our surveys there as well if people want to take one, and just begin to gather that information and that input from the community.
So I know that the Age and Dementia Friendly Cape Ann program is still in the assessment phase. Can you tell me about other communities that are further along and what they've done?
Sure. It really varies because communities are so different. So what happens in Boston is going to look very different than what happens in the Berkshires versus what happens in Cape Ann. But I think it helps people get an understanding of what an initiative is if they hear about specific programs. So in Boston, they've done a couple different things recently. They've worked to train all city, kind of front-facing city staff on how to be age-friendly and dementia-friendly. So there's been a whole training process for city workers. They've developed an age-friendly designation for stores, so they're rolling that out neighborhood by neighborhood. So right now, I believe in West Roxbury, they're rolling out kind of a designation. They've laid out a kind of checklist for businesses on what it means to be age-friendly, and when businesses achieve that, they'll get that designation and kind of be highlighted on the website. If you look at a community like Leominster, they have an Alzheimer's awareness park. So they light it up purple at night. They've developed these pavers that people can purchase for loved ones. So that's kind of a way to begin to raise the community's awareness of Alzheimer's and dementia. So those are just two kind of small aspects of much bigger plans. And I think that's important to know is that, we talk about these things that Boston has done, but that's two small things within a much wider plan that addresses all of the domains.
This is very interesting. Where can people go to learn more about age and dementia-friendly programs?
I think the best place to start is our website, which is www.adfca.org. And we have links there to the World Health Organization and more details on age-friendly and dementia-friendly initiatives, as well as what we're doing here on Cape Ann. And you can also, people can feel free to give me a call at 978-281-1750. And I'm happy to talk with them about age and dementia-friendly Cape Ann and provide them with information by mail.
Okay, we only have a minute or so left. Is there anything you need to say further?
I just really want to encourage people to look for that survey that's going to be up on our website and coming to them by mail or at community events soon. We really do want the community's feedback on these initiatives, and I think that's going to be a key component of our work moving forward.
Well, thank you very much, Carrie, for joining us today. Thank you for watching Living Wisely, Aging Well. For more information on how senior care might help you, your family, or your friends, you can go to our website at www.seniorcareinc.org, or you can give us a call at 978-281-1750. When you call, ask for our information and referral department. Thank you so much.